Hey guys, Richard of Aficionado channel. How you guys doing today? For this episode, I came here in Coconut Creek, Florida to bust some old myth that surrounds activated carbon. And to help with that, I visited some of my friends here in Boyd Enterprise, the makers of chemi.
Hi, my name is Sean Berner. I'm here with chemi, and we're going to debunk some of the myths concerning activated carbon. So there's a big concern about a lot of hobbyists are worried that carbon will remove trace elements such as strontium, molybdenum, any of the different iodines, things like that, out of your aquarium water. But yeah, the minor trace elements that are in the water are measured in the parts per billion, and carbon basically will it does remove, but it doesn't. It's not going to remove anything that's in any traceable amounts that the hobbyist or your aquarium would ever detect. The pluses that carbon give you, such as removing the smelly fish smells and clarifying the water and basically giving you that crystal clear polished look, far outweigh the tiny, minute, little amounts of trace elements that might be absorbed into your carbon. It's negligible. It doesn't really affect anything as far as that goes.
Carbon in and of itself is a very unique product, and there's many ways to make it. There's steam activated, there's phosphorus washed carbons, there's coconut carbon. I mean, carbon is a wood byproduct from prehistoric times. It's made from peat moss in Europe. It's made from many sources, and different carbons at different qualities, at different pricing structures, all have different abilities to absorb items out of water and air. And they're utilized in many industries. You can buy cheap coconut carbon from wherever, Thailand or somewhere in the South Pacific, and it's cheap and it's garbage. So, if you don't know the carbon that you're using, then you could have some significant issues with its longevity. So if you think the carbon that you're using is ineffective in 3 weeks, you might be right. It could be ineffective in 3 weeks because it was designed to filter air. It wasn't a carbon that's used in water purification industries that has a very high porosity. It's huge. If you look at the surface area of a tiny, tiny piece of carbon, we use a 4x12 style carbon, it's huge. The surface area is very vast. So water is always being filtered through it in a passive manner. You can push water through it, not totally necessary. It absorbs through and out of solution through all of the surface areas on the carbon. Yes, it will get filled over time. And again, the indicator to me is really the clarity of the water. The water starts changing a little in clarity. It's pretty easy to see. Then you'll change a bag or two, depending on how many bags you have. Again, we're going to recommend that if you have 4 bags, you change 2 at a time. Don't change all 4 at once. It's really not necessary. And the benefit of that is that the bacteria that's colonizing the carbon, lots of nitrosoma bacteria, nitrobacters, it's a huge surface area. That bacteria is part of your biological system for sure, and it's colonized. So you don't want to upset the biological balance of your system, such as having a totally sterile system. The ocean's not sterile, an aquarium's not sterile. A living coral reef aquarium by far is a tremendous biodiversity of organisms, micro, macro, and living, breathing creatures like fish and corals that are taking up vast space in this body of water. This particular tank with a lot of soft corals and some fire corals and different things in there, it's taking up probably 30% of the overall volume of the water between the rock, the corals, the sand, the fish. It's taking up a space of that. That's all, again, biological area within your system. So carbon, very important to recognize, is activated. Activated carbon can be activated through steam. It can be activated through heat. It can be activated. Basically, those are the 2 main types of activation. And during the process of making the carbon, sometimes it'll get rinsed. They'll rinse in certain types of carbon through phosphoric acid. Phosphate, phosphoric, you get what that is, that's phosphorus. And you'll get phosphate on certain types of lower grade carbon. Again, those types of carbon we don't use. There's no phosphates in our carbon whatsoever. And that's very important to stay on that path and, again, utilize these high grade, expensive types of carbon versus just a cheap carbon product that'll clean your water for a week or two, and then that's about it, the life of the carbon. It's pretty much done. We recommend 2 months. Some people use it for 3 months. And that, again, depends on the load of fish, the load of feeding, the frequency of water changes, the quality of the protein skimmer. Do you have any algal absorption via refugium? I mean, there's a lot of ways to help to clean your water. Even in my little office tank that I do very little with, again, there's one ChemiPure Blue in here. This aquarium's been set up about 5 years now. And just a few clowns, some soft corals. There's a little fire coral that grew on the aquaculture rock from Florida. There's a Bellis angel in here. There he is right there. And there's a yellow tang. You'll see him come out. He's been here for several years. There's nothing going on with him. There's no lateral line disease. He's very healthy. He eats some nori. He eats some pelletized food. It's very, very simple in here. But we're not over-carboning the tank. I'll put it to you that way. If you're hammering the carbon in your gaff bag and the water's falling on it, it's beating it up. If you're changing your carbon every 3 weeks or every 2 weeks, if you're using a lesser grade carbon, these are things that can lead to lateral line disease in tangs and in angels especially too. It really goes back to diet. Vitamin C is very important to the diet of the fish. Having algal sources for them to eat, having natural light is also super beneficial for the fish. Getting rid of any electrical charge in the water, that's also very, very important. And there's a variety of things that can lead to lateral line. So carbon was found to be very beneficial for utilization in marine aquariums, going back as far as that I can recollect, and I wasn't even alive yet, but the 50s. People were using carbon in aquariums, the 60s, 70s. ChemiPure was developed really in the late 50s to early 60s. And from all the aquariums that I've seen worldwide, lots of aquariums in Germany, England, all over, carbon is utilized in reef aquariums to help with the clarity of the water, to keep it crystal clear, and to help with the absorption of organics in water. Yes, you can overuse carbon. That's an absolute fact. And that's something that you shouldn't strive to do. So follow the directions. Don't go crazy with it. You could use less. That's okay. But sometimes people have this tendency, more is better. You eat more food, you're going to get fat. You eat a certain amount, you're going to stay at a reasonable level. It's the same with your aquarium. Put too much food in, you're going to build up phosphates, you're going to build up organics, your water quality is going to go downhill. And then using a lot of carbon to strip it out could work, but you don't need to keep a lot of carbon in the system. So again, that's why there's recommendations on the bottles, and that would be a maximum amount. We don't expect you to use twice as much ChemiPure. It's absolutely not necessary. ChemiPure was developed over 50 years ago. It is the #1 aquarium filtration media in this hemisphere, hands down for sure. And it has been revered by top aquarists in our market and in other markets around the world for many, many, many years, and still is the benchmark product ever created for filtration media. About 7 years ago, I had the opportunity to buy the company. And being that I've been using it since I was 7 years old, it was just really an easy decision to do so and to help further strengthen the brand in and of itself, and to keep moving along with the technological advances in carbons and resins and phosphate absorption media into the next evolution of what ChemiPure can be with the development of other products over the last 50 years. So the original ChemiPure we have is exactly the same original ChemiPure that it was in the beginning. It's really the same carbon. It's the same organic scavenging resins in there, and there's a water component. It's packaged wet, and that also helps in the assistance of keeping the product fresh for years to come. So here's the original ChemiPure. The labels changed a little bit over time. It used to say, no expensive water changes ever. It's not true. It's a good idea to make water changes. But 50 years ago, as a hobbyist, water changes were expensive at that time. Now, there's lots of high-grade salts. It's pretty easy to do it. You should use reverse osmosis, purified water for water changes. And the original ChemiPure has been used by people, including ourselves, for, 45 years. So ChemiPure original was there. And then what happened years later, sometime after Dick Boyd had died, is that his son, Matt, came up with the idea that we'll add GFO to ChemiPure, which was the original formula. And granular ferric oxide helps absorb phosphates, where the original ChemiPure was absorbing organics, and not necessarily as much the phosphate components, though organics that are breaking down do have phosphates and can add to the phosphate loading of the system. So Elite was developed. It's a great product. It's been selling super well for a long time, and a lot of people swear by it. So Elite continues to be manufactured in the same way that it had been for years. After that, we did some testing after we had bought the company, and went ahead and made ChemiPure Blue. We tested it for over 2 years. It's been on the market now for over 2 years, and it works even on delicate jellyfish aquariums. ChemiPure Blue has 08 millimeter German carbon that is super high quality for the absorption of organic matter out of water. Not for air, could be used in air, but really its application is to be utilized in water. The unique thing about the 08 millimeter German carbon is it's virtually dust-free. You can open this unit right now, and the top of the cap is completely clean. The product is completely clean. You could rinse it if you need to or want to, but you really don't have to. But typically, I'll rinse it for 10 seconds in the sink just to make sure there wasn't any extras in the packaging. But ChemiPure Blue, with its combination of a different absorbing resins and phosphate absorbing resins as well, is a really unique product. It's stronger, so we've labeled it for use in a 75-gallon tank versus the original being utilized in a 50-gallon aquarium, same size of product. And it really can last longer because of its strength. The carbon itself has a surface area that's over 30% higher than the original carbon that's still used in regular ChemiPure. Phosphate binding resin, same kind of thing, will work very, very well as GFO, if not better. So the one thing with ChemiPure Blue that I'd be concerned about if I had a SPS, strictly SPS, really stony coral tank, you don't want to strip out all of your phosphates completely. You need some phosphate, and you're adding phosphates daily if you have fish via the food that's going into your aquarium. So most, if not all, foods that are protein-based have phosphates in them. So you're daily adding phosphate into your aquarium when you're feeding your fish. So you want to be cautious with that. There's really very little carbon dust. It helps to keep anything out of the water body that people may think that contribute to lateral line disease, may contribute to something like sensitive, like a jellyfish who filter feeds and could absorb part of carbon dust, we'll call it, in water. So this product has done super duper well. Recently we launched the ChemiPure Green, and this product here is specifically designed for planted aquariums and has a different resin component altogether. Does have the same German 08 millimeter carbon, and it's super clean as well. Will last, in our opinion, it'll last even longer because of the fact that you're really going into a planted aquarium. You do need iron, you do need some fertilizers. People use them all the time in their planted aquariums. So this is less towards the fact of absorption of organic matter out of the aquarium. So there's the lineup of ChemiPure. We've actually made now, of course, the nano packets, which are very popular. These products here work for anybody's nano aquarium, from a 5-gallon, a 10-gallon, a 15-gallon. You could use 1 pack or 2 packs. It's the same thing. It's in a little packet. You rinse it real quickly. You put it in the overflow box of your outside filter or your integrated filter in your, IM or your JBJ aquarium or whatever you have, and it really works super well. So we're trying to make it easy for the consumer. Thanks again for watching Aficionado, and I'm Jeff Turner from ChemiPure. See you at MACNA. Aficionado is a hell of a fish channel. That Richard Beck guy, he is something else. I don't know where he came from, what planet he came off of, but he doesn't sleep. He does nothing but talk about fish. He interviews people until they're blue in the face or red in the face and drives them crazy. I don't know if I'd ever want to be on Aficionado Fish Channel ever, but I'll do it.
I'm just doing this while I'm filming on camera. As soon as I turned it on, I was like, oh, I gotta get my oatmeal.
Well, you weren't taking into account the room decor.
No, it's not a proper setting of the thing. I can't. I just get all tongue-tied.
Why don't you take some of the doggy though?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, that'll help. Yeah.
So you tell me when. There's very few people.
Yeah.
Can I start with that? Rolling. So let's just think about this, Richard. Okay, so how long have you been playing with fish bowls? 8. And you are 38 now?
36.
See, I'm guessing close. So before you were born, hell, I had already been laid, and I had, I mean, let me think about this. So you were 36? Yeah, I mean, you're 19 years younger than me. Shit, man, I had already met my current wife, which is still my current wife. Yeah, so I've been dealing with this shit forever, man. And the evolution of the trade in general. I mean, I had Julian working for me. I could go down all a list of people that worked for me or worked with me way back when. It was a very interesting equation. And I've learned a lot through time. But the changes in the evolution of this hobby, which has always been a business for me to a great extent, though it's always still a hobby when you think about it. It's just that I guess it's really this whole nuance of the internet and the way communications travel to the benefit of the other person. It's a very interesting world, I mean.